Alright, then let's begin with what first came about. The novel by Anthony Burgess. This is a very good book, I have to admit, although when you first get into it, I must warn you, it is a difficult read for the first few chapters, because it's written in first person from the main character of Alex, and he writes it in the slang of the time, which is called nadsat, which is a combination of English, British slang, Cockney rhyming, Russian, German, and a bit of Bible versing, if I remember correctly. So it's a bit difficult, so that there's certain vocabulary that you're not really familiar with. You're like, what? Wait, what? And you have to, and also, if you've learned proper English grammar, you probably won't get confused with some of the way the sentences are written. Like, for instance, we would say, it's like this in a way, but he would say it's this like way, and you'd be like, wait, what? What is he trying to say this? And so you're like, have to reread the sentence or a paragraph a few times and go, okay, now I see what he's saying. And the way certain things are described, you can kind of understand what the person is saying, what he's saying, and get by a little bit. But after the first like 2 or 3 chapters, you got the basic knowledge of it to be like, okay, I can get by. I can understand what he's saying now. So at first it's difficult, but if you give it a chance, it'll be a good read. Very original story. It's about it's set in the not too distant future about a 15-year-old boy who's a gang leader, who him and his droogs, as they're called, or gang members, are interested in basically wreaking havoc throughout the night. It's like Batman in reverse. He's interested in ultra-violence, as they call it, and just raping, pillaging, robbing, destroying, anything that just comes to mind to have fun through the night. They find all this fun. This is how it's where we would just like go to a bar or something, just get drunk or just drink or just, release some steam in other ways. He just does things that we get arrested for, pretty much. Just some things that you just wouldn't think of are for fun, he thinks is fun. And they do that nightly. It's kind of, like I said, it's kind of like Batman in reverse. Eventually his droogs betray him and he gets arrested. And he goes to prison for 14 years. And 2 years later, he figures a way to kind of try and get out early, which is, there's this new treatment called the Ludovico treatment, where they kind of try and train you to be good. And he thinks this is just a quick way to get out, and he can just go back to where he was after, he gets out. Well, it turns out he gets more than what he bargained for, and finds he's not himself, and the world has changed, and also that he cannot be who he was. And it's very interesting. The themes in this book are very good. Also, it's the main theme is the freedom of choice, because we all choose between good, evil, or to do certain things. With the Ludovico treatment in the book, it automatically removes the choice for bad, and you only have to do good, because the Ludovico treatment makes it so that if you so much as think or want to do certain violent acts or just bad stuff, you become violently sick. You just can't, function, and you want to kill yourself. So you have to try and do good things to try and get rid of that feeling and just try and avoid certain situations. And also the theme of government control or corruption in the government, businesses, and this and that, because it's the government who planned this, who wanted to create a way to get rid of the violence in the whole world, because the whole world is pretty much downhill. It's like, you could see that it's like gritty, economy's pretty much bad, this and that. So it's like they want to try and eliminate something that they promised, which is crime. So this is their way of doing it. But what people don't realize is if they are able to train this bad person to become good, what's to prevent them to doing the same with every other person that, under their control, under their rule. So and also, in a way, if you read the book, it's also a coming-of-age story. Spoiler alert, the last chapter, which, as a side note, when this is a British book and when it came out in America, the last chapter was actually omitted. And because the American publishers didn't think American audiences would get it. It wasn't until a few years later and the success of the movie that they put it back in. And getting back to this spoiler alert, the last chapter, Alex decides to grow up. He thinks that all this gang stuff and ultra-violent stuff is very childish. I need to just push that aside and get on with my life. He has a job, he wants to have a future, he wants to have a family, wife, kids, this is that, what a normal adult would do. So he decides to do that and leave everything behind. So, coming of age story, growing up, he's like 18 or something, he's an adult, so he wants to do adult stuff. and it's very interesting. Visually, visually in a sense, like, and here, when you read the story and you visualize all the stuff in there, it's very, very gritty. It's dark and blood, just ultra violence is just in your face. It's dark, gritty, and just shocking, and very much. And even through the whole book, it's just shocking. You're like, wow, it's just very realistic. You're like, this could actually happen in a way. Like you would think, maybe some people you think it might be like Alex, or yourself is like Alex, and you're like, this could actually happen to me, or this, and that. And it's very weird and very beautifully well done, in my opinion. If I were to rate this like a movie, I don't think I've reviewed any books before on my channel, so I'm gonna rate this much like a movie. If I were to give this something out of 5 stars, it would have to be 5 out of 5 stars. I did like it. Again, yes, it's a little hard at first because of the vocabulary of the slang, but once you get by, it's very well done. So it's beautiful. I like it. I love it. Now, I don't really love it enough to like read it over and over again because the language, but I do love it. I do like it a lot. And then after this became the movie. And speaking of that, let's get right to it, shall we? Stanley Kubrick, one of the greatest film directors of all time, decided to make his own kind of teen movie, because at the time there was a lot of teen movies coming out, for the youth, the youth films as they were kind of called. And he's like, well, he read the book. I was like, well, here's my youth film. I'm going to do this. And he did, in a way. He made the most violent and graphic and kind of like almost pornographically, visually shocking film. And speaking of pornographically, the visuals of this, the art style of this film, like the set designing and whatnot, was not only very well done, it fit. You could see that economy's gone downhill. Police and government are very, like, put in the corner to try and do something to fix everything. It's just that when you see like all the walls, everything, the statues, they came up with the idea that what if in the future erotic art is like the big cultural thing nowadays, and you would see a lot of like statues or sculptures of naked women and a lot of phylactic, busts or this or that, and references or paraphernalia everywhere. So yeah, there's a lot of that, and the violence is also in your face, also much like in the book. There's a lot of blood. It's just, much like the book, you feel like you're really in that moment, and it's just find yourself going like this, like, God, it's so shocking. Oh, whoa. But it's actually also kind of entertaining because it's fake, and it's a movie. Much like the book, story is very well done. Acting is very well done. Malcolm McDowell, who plays the main character, perfectly fit that role of Alex. You could tell just from his look that he enjoys doing all this violent acts. He just enjoys it. Like he's like a kid with the new toys, just like, yes, yes, yes. Every night, it's just him and his droogs just do stuff, and it's like, oh gosh, very bad. Like I said, with the visuals, they're good. The camera shots, they're very beautifully done. Like the first shot in the movie, it's just a close-up of Alex's face. And then it just slowly, as he starts his opening narration, just slowly backs up to, we see all his droogs, and we see the room that they're in, and we just keep panning back, or zooming out from this long hallway, and we just get the first view of this world, not only him, but also this world as well. We can see, the erotic art with statues and this and that. We see, it's like gangs. It's like we could see that this is a dark place. We see this is a bar. We see, guards, this and that. You just get the first impression of what this world is and what you're going to be seeing throughout the whole movie. Excuse me. And then, of course, other things like you can see there's trash everywhere. You can kind of tell the economy's gone downhill. You can tell that, since it's not too distant future, this is like could happen tomorrow. And it's very visually beautifully well done. The gore, the violence, and the everything, the ultra violence and rape just seems so real because not only you're in there, but it doesn't seem choreographed. Like it's the people that are going through the motion. It actually feels like it's happening at that moment, and it's kind of disturbing and yet also entertaining as well. One of the things that I find ironic and funny about this movie, but also beautiful at the same time, is the music. There is a original musical score, but they borrowed classical music for this movie. When I mean classical, I mean really real classics like Beethoven and Rosalie or something like Beethoven in there, because the main character Alex is very keen on music. He loves, in the book he liked many different artists, musical artists, but for the film they just made him a very much love Ludwig van Beethoven. He still likes the other people as well, but very much his favorite is Beethoven. And they have, of course, some of Beethoven's classic stuff in there. But when they play it, like for the instance in the beginning, there's a fight scene with a rival gang, and it just seemed like, again, it didn't seem choreographed, but at the same time, when they played this classical music, it kind of seemed like a musical opera or a ballet in a sense, and they're fighting, and it just seemed in a perverted way seemed to fit, and beautiful and weird. It just a lot of different emotions and feelings, and yet it just fit. And it was funny and enjoyable and artful and beautiful. You know, it was just great. And like I said a few seconds ago, it fit. It's just strangely fit, and that's true with many things. Also, the direction, of course, was great. Sets, story, script, everything was just beautifully done. Alan Malcolm McDowell was great. And also, like I said, very realistic. And then the ending. Spoiler alert, the movie doesn't have the ending that's in the book, with him coming to age and growing up and thinking, I need to move on and move away from this. It doesn't have that. It ends just before that. And if they did put that in there, the original ending, it probably would have been anticlimactic. It just wouldn't fit right. Wouldn't have as big as an impact, and probably wouldn't fit story of of the gang thing. It just wouldn't have a complete arc, in my opinion. It just didn't fit Alex for the movie, because when you built up how this character should be, it just didn't seem like there's enough of a streamline for him to. Didn't seem like a coming of age movie, you know. It doesn't seem like with the path, with the way the movie is, that he wouldn't have enough time to try to fit in this kind of coming of age stuff with him realizing all this and that. So it just wouldn't have fit. And the freedom of choice theme is kind of touched upon, but not really delved into much. But it is there, but the whole thing about the corruption of government is obviously there as well, because they're kind of trying to cover their ass through the whole thing. And you know, very beautiful there. But overall, I'd have to say, with editing and visuals, music, everything, I loved it all. This is, of all the Stanley Kubrick movies I've seen, which is 2001: A Space Odyssey, The Shining, and this movie would have to be my favorite. I actually saw this movie before I read the book, and I love this movie. I give this movie 5 out of 5 stars. It's just a beautiful movie, and many of you are probably wondering why, but I kind of gave my reasons throughout the whole thing. Some of you may be disturbed by this movie. Some of you probably would think, my God, why would I want to watch this movie? But it's there. I would suggest if you watch it, don't watch it with any little kids around or people who are not of proper age, maybe. But it is a movie I do kind of recommend to see at least once. And if you actually think about reading the book, this is probably a strange suggestion, but I suggest you see the movie first before reading the book, because when you see the movie and you hear how people say the NADSAT and watch the movie and see what they mean with the NADSAT, you kind of get the basic knowledge of the vocabulary that then when you read the book, you kind of can actually understand more of the words, and you say there's also very little amount of vocabulary you wouldn't know that you can actually figure out a lot more easier, because you would know what the other words mean from the movie. So, you know, there's that. And also, as a little trivia, this is also one of the few X-rated movies to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture. Strange, yes, it was actually rated X, so, you know, when you see the movie, you're like, yeah, I can understand why it was rated X. But this movie didn't win the Academy Award, unfortunately. It actually lost to Midnight Cowboy, which is actually another movie I suggest you see. That is a beautiful movie as well. Midnight Cowboy, when it was first released, was rated X, and then after it won the Academy Award, they bumped it down to R. But, you know, that ends with that trivia. But you can understand both movies being, you know, rated X. Just thought I'd give that little trivia. So, But that is all. I like both of them, both the book and the film. They very much complement each other. The movie does follow the book very well. There's only like one or two little differences, very, very subtle little differences. That's actually another reason why I would suggest reading the book, so you can see those subtle differences and kind of compare the two. See, yeah, I can understand this way, or this way is a little bit better, you know. But they do pretty much complement each other and are both, you know, follow the same streamline as well. But yeah, thank you for watching, and have a nice day. And if you watch these movies, watch the movie and read the book, I hope you do enjoy them as much as I did. Thank you.